Tatsumi was a poor innocent boy who dreamed of becoming an Empire soldier. However, when he finds out that the Empire killed his friends, he joins an assassin guild to overthrow the government. Now he will team up with freaky assassins to avenge his friends by clapping busty Imperial soldiers. At the start of it all, Tatsumi and his childhood friends Ieyasu and Sayo embark to the imperial capital to earn money and save their village from starvation, before leaving the chief hands Tatsumi a totem for good fortune. However, after leaving the village, they are attacked by bandits. Therefore, Tatsumi is accidentally separated from his friends. After arriving in the city, Tatsumi first tries to join a guild to finally become a knight, but his smug country boy face irritates the leader, who quickly kicks him out. Dejected, Tatsumi wanders the streets until a strong woman stops him. The first thing he notices is her perfect round assets dangling right above his head. Flustered, he has nowhere safe to look, but she is completely casual about it. Instead, she offers to help him if he will buy her a meal. One meal becomes several bottles of alcohol, draining Tatsumi's patience. When he demands her promised advice, she finally turns serious and says that if he wants to be a knight, he needs connections and money. She claims she knows someone who can help if Tatsumi hands over his savings, so he gives her everything, and she pockets it, tells him to wait, and disappears. The idiot Tatsumi waits until the restaurant closes. Only then does the owner tell him that he has been scammed. Hopeless and broke, Tatsumi collapses in the streets until a carriage stops. A young noblewoman named Arya takes pity on him, ordering her guards to bring him in, sweetly saying that no one should sleep on the street. Inside her mansion, Arya's parents treat him kindly, offering food and asking about his purpose. Tatsumi explains his mission, to find help for his town. Arya's father praises his courage, and when Tatsumi mentions he has come with two friends but has been separated, the man offers help, while in the meantime, Tatsumi can serve as Arya's personal guard. The next day, while escorting Arya through the city, Tatsumi gets shocked at how big the castle of the king is. However, one of the guards comments that the king is just a brat, while the true power lies with the prime minister who manipulates him. He adds that such words are dangerous, and anyone overheard speaking them can lose their head. However, there is a group that is against the government. Night Raid? Assassins that hunt government officials and high-ranked nobles like Iria family. Due to this, the guard informs Tatsumi to be prepared for anything. Later that night, fate takes its turn, as while Arya's mother is about to head to bed, she suddenly gets sliced in half, and the culprit is a purple-haired girl with gigantic scissors. Tatsumi suddenly wakes up, sensing a powerful bloodlust present in the mansion. He runs out of his room to investigate, and when he looks out the window, what he sees is none other than the infamous assassin group, Night Raid, posing in front of the bloody moon, with aura oozing out. Tatsumi sees the guards making their move, thinking about what he should do. But in that moment, the embodiment of death, Akame, and the immovable force, Bulat, face them. The budget Kamen Rider, Bulat, obliterates one guard, while Akame, with her cursed sword, slices the other's neck, sending a curse into his body, retiring him early. The last guard tries to run, but gets headshot by Mine and her gun. All the while, Tatsumi witnesses the whole massacre. Elsewhere, a tall, cat-like woman has her hand on Arya's father, and despite the poor guy's pleading, she snaps his neck like nothing. Meanwhile, Arya and a guard are escaping to the warehouse when Tatsumi manages to find them. At that moment, Akame appears from the darkness and sees Arya, her target. Tatsumi tries to intervene, but seeing that he's not a target, Akame jumps over him, eliminates the guard, and turns her attention to Arya. However, Tatsumi intervenes, determined to protect Arya, even when Akame tells him to move away. But when Tatsumi refuses, Akame has no choice but to have his head as well. In his heart, Tatsumi knows it's a losing battle, but knowing he wants to save a whole village, he tells himself to save one girl first. The two then go at it, but Akame maneuvers with a speed he can't follow and stabs his chest with ease, guaranteeing his death. But the anime gods say that it's not Tatsumi's time to die, and Tatsumi reveals the totem the chief gave him, saying that they saved him once more by taking a hit from Akame's cursed blade. Akame then goes again, and despite Tatsumi begging her to stop, Akame doesn't listen, fully intending to have his head. Suddenly, the cat chick stops her, saying that he owes Tatsumi a favor, and when he looks at her, he realizes it's the same chick with fat melons who scammed him. Kitty Girl then tells Tatsumi that looks can be deceiving, and she kicks down the warehouse's door, revealing the cruel truth behind the people who gave him shelter. Inside, Tatsumi's eyes widen, seeing all the corpses treated like toys, and the kitty girl explains that Arya and her family lure people from the countryside to their home to torture them as a game, and that Tatsumi was about to be their next plaything. Hanging above him, Tatsumi sees his beloved friend, Sayo, hanging with her beautiful body ruined and defiled by Arya's family, who did ungodly things to her. Then, right beside him is a cell, and inside is his best friend, Ieyasu, whose body is rotting from poison and torture, claiming that Arya and her family lured him and Sayo to their place, pretending to be kind but tortured them for days. He says that they tortured Sayo even more than others, and she held on for dear life, hoping Tatsumi would save her, but she ended up unable to hold on, and still got her body used after her death. At that moment, Arya's mask breaks, and she declares that lowlife, poor pigs like Sayo should never have such beautiful skin and hair, so she should give her body to someone more worthy like Arya. Akame was about to shut her for good, but Tatsumi jumps in, and with the rage of a grieving soul, he slashes Arya viciously, sending her off to hell where she belongs. Seeing that, Ieyasu smiles and thanks Tatsumi, but when Tatsumi tries to help him, Ieyasu's body worsens, and Akame explains that Arya's mother tortured him using multiple diseases, giving him zero chance to live, and that the only reason he's still breathing is that he kept hoping Tatsumi would save him. As he takes his last breath, Ieyasu tells Tatsumi that Sayo refused to give in to sweet death as well, also praying that a brighter tomorrow would come. When Ieyasu dies, the kitty girl suggests that they take Tatsumi with them, seeing that he's both righteous against evil and capable in his abilities. The cat girl drags him with her, even when Tatsumi refuses to go, wanting to bury his friends first, but she assures him that they'll take their bodies for him to honor. The other Night Raid members ask why Tatsumi is with them, and the big melon lady states that from now on, Tatsumi will be joining them as part of Night Raid. Tatsumi tries to reject, but Akame tells him to give up and give in. Bulat grabs him, and with the mission succeeded, they leave. The next day, Tatsumi buries his two friends. Loneliness weighs on him, but the mood shifts the moment the strong woman leans in, dangling her assets over his head. Her name is Leonie, and this time she officially introduces the others. The Night Raid base camp lies hidden under the cliffs. The first member is Shiel, the purple-haired girl. When asked to motivate Tatsumi, she casually remarks that since he knows their base, he will be cut to pieces if he refuses to join. Next is Mine, the pink-haired sharpshooter, who dismisses him outright, saying he is too chopped to belong with them. On the training grounds, the spear-wielding giant Bulat spars with calm precision, though Leonie teases him for his strange tastes. On the cliff's secret side lurks Lubbock, the green-haired degenerate, and near the riverside sits the black-haired assassin Akame, chewing on a monster fish with unnerving calm. Finally comes the boss, Magenta, the silver-haired commander. She seems gentle until her machine arm clamps around Leone's neck, punishing her for toying with prey during a mission. When asked about Tatsumi, Leone simply says he is worth trying. Magenta gathers the squad for a debrief of last night's events. Learning the truth, she asks Tatsumi to join. Night Raid, she explains, is the blade of the revolution, assassinating in the shadows to dismantle the empire. Tatsumi agrees, saying that as long as he is paid and the corrupt kingdom falls, he is in. His first duty, however, is mundane, cooking with Akame. Almost everyone treats him like a servant, especially Mine, who mocks him at every chance. Later, when the others leave for a meeting, Akame drags him fishing. Without warning, she strips to a spicy swimsuit and dives after rare tuna. Tatsumi, unwilling to lose to a girl, boasts he can do the same, only to return with a pitiful 2 fish. At dinner, when Nogenda asks about his training, Akame reports that he is still weak, but the talk quickly turns serious. Their next mission, eliminate Ogre of the Royal Police and Gamal, the corrupt oil merchant, who have evaded justice by exploiting others. Ogre, a skilled swordsman and feared instructor, often wanders the main street on his days off. Leonie volunteers for the task, her face absent from wanted lists, and Tatsumi pushes to prove himself by joining her. Akame warns that he is only murdered out of hatred, never as conviction, but Tatsumi is determined to show his worth. On mission day, Leona briefs him about Akame's past. Once a government assassin, she was raised to be heartless, trained to assassinate without hesitation. But after witnessing the rot within the kingdom, Nogenda brings her into the Night Raid, giving her a cause worth fighting for. Along the way, Akame loses comrades, one after another, and Tatsumi will understand that in time. In the meantime, Leone and Akame strike Gamal at his residence. Tatsumi faces Ogre alone. He fakes weakness to draw Ogre's guard down, then strikes hard. His blade lands, but victory is premature. Ogre rises furious, and the true fight begins. He hurls Tatsumi against a wall, declaring that the strong rule the weak. His arrogance ends in a single clean strike, and Tatsumi's blade silences him mid-boast. Nogenda praises the finish as efficient. Akame immediately strips off his clothes, checking for poison or bruises. She explains their comrades once died from a poison scratch too small to notice. Satisfied he is unhurt, she admits his potential, and Tatsumi realizes that she truly cares for him. Next, Nogenda orders Tatsumi to train under Mine. A few days later, Night Raid's base is attacked by enemies who have discovered their hideout. Everyone leaps into battle. Tatsumi fights alongside Bulat, who reveals his imperial armor, in Curcio. Akame cuts down 3 men in a single strike, her blade precise and final. Mine locks her prey through her massive rifle scope, sniping from afar, but when an enemy charges her position, Shield intercepts with calm brutality. Leone, guided by her beast senses, tears through enemies with her claws, while inside the cave, Lubbock strings and snare a woman. Though tempted, he values the mission more than lust. His wires tighten, and he leaves her behind. Tatsumi slays 2 foes himself, while Bulat dispatches 6 at once. When the dust settles, Bulat notes Tatsumi's unscathed state. Impressed, he finally accepts him as part of the team. The next day, Tatsumi is assigned as Mine's partner. In the hallway, he runs into Shioli, who explains that waking Mine is her responsibility, but Najenda says it is Tatsumi's for today. So Tatsumi knocks on Mine's door just as she is dressing, and she blasts him on sight. The others shrug it off as routine, and even Najenda smirks, already certain that Tatsumi's day will be hell. In the city, Mine treats him as a subordinate, not a partner. Tatsumi sees the misery of the streets from the bullying, despair, and suffering at every level of society. Mine explains that it is the result of endless recession, fear, and corruption, where only a privileged few live in peace and the rest drown in misery. In an alley, two men assault a young girl. Mine steps in and Tatsumi cuts their pants to humiliate them. The girl tries to thank Mine, but Mine coldly tells her to learn to fight for herself. Still confused, Tatsumi asks if it is safe for them to walk around so openly. Mine explains that only Najenda, Bulat, Sheila, and Akame have faces on wanted lists, so the others can move freely. In truth, their scouting is Mine's excuse for shopping. Over tea, Tatsumi complains about her arrogance, but Mine snaps that he is below everyone else and far less experienced. Tatsumi admits that it is true, but swears he will fight for his friend's sake. Their argument ends with a commotion nearby. A public execution. For the first time, Tatsumi witnesses crucified bodies strung in the streets. Mine explains the Prime Minister can command such cruelty without consequence. The current king, a brat on the throne, has already ordered the death of the Home Affairs Minister for minor defiance. The condemned minister begs, telling him that Prime Minister Honest is a snake, and the king must listen to the people who scream. But Honest says that the man has gone mad, and the young king believes it. Honest's grip over the kingdom tightens, and the weak can only wish that this monster would get the punishment he deserves. Night Raid's next mission targets one of Honest's allies, a noble who kidnaps women for his sadistic pleasures. He lives in a vast mansion in the woods guarded by 5 warriors trained in Kukenji, the strongest martial arts temple in the empire. Tatsumi remains Mine's support, watching from afar while she sets her scope. She explains her weapon, Pumpkin, grows more powerful the greater her desperation. From her position, she lines up a perfect shot, and when the noble steps outside, she blows him apart, ignoring the guards around him. The rest of the Night Raid clash with the Kukenji warriors. While on their way out, Mine tells Tatsumi about her past of being raised on the western border and shunned for her mixed blood. The government's discrimination fuels her rage, but the revolution offers hope of a world without borders, without prejudice, and that keeps her fighting. As she speaks, the last surviving guard ambushes them. Tatsumi shoves Mine aside, taking the brunt of the assault. The guard targets only her, dodging every bullet. Tatsumi launches his own strike but is caught midair. Trapped, he drops his sword and holds the guard still, trusting Mine's precision. Smiling at his faith, she fires. Her shot punches through the man's chest, and Tatsumi collapses at her feet. Proud, Mine admits he has earned her acknowledgement, but she gets flicked on the forehead by him for burning his hair. The others regroup, relieved that the mission is over, but elsewhere in the city a new monster arrives, cutting down guards like paper. In the dead of night, the monster haunts the streets. By morning, life at Night Raid's base feels normal again, where Tatsumi practices with Bulat, shares breakfast with everyone, while elsewhere, Najenda receives a new mission list from the last surviving revolutionaries. Their next target is the Butcher, terrorizing the city, beheading victims at random. Lubbock guesses it is Zank the Butcher, and Mine explains Zank once worked in the dungeons, executing prisoners for years until it became second nature. Now the executions aren't enough, so he hunts civilians, and becomes worse, as he possesses an imperial arm stolen from the Warden Kingdom. Tatsumi, still unfamiliar with these ancient weapons, asks about them. Najenda explains that long ago a king sought to protect the empire beyond his lifetime. He summoned craftsmen from across the world to forge weapons from legendary beasts and rare orichalcum steel. 48 are created, and they are called imperial arms, weapons of unimaginable power. Some can match the strength of 1,000 soldiers, and each is unique, impossible to replicate. During a civil war 500 years ago, many were lost and scattered, but now Night Raid itself wields several. Akame has Murasame, the cursed blade. One cut brings death. Leone has Lionel, the Beast King Shifter, which grants feral strength and senses. Mine has Pumpkin, a spirit rifle. The greater the danger, the stronger it fires. Bulat has Incursio, the demon armor, so powerful that most users die attempting to wield it. Lubbock has Crosstail, versatile threads perfect for traps, detection, and slicing foes. Shield has Ixtase, giant scissors that are able to cut through anything, but all come with rules that imperial arms always bring death. And if 2 wielders fight, one has to die. Knowing Zank carries one makes him even more dangerous. Tatsumi asks if he will ever receive a weapon of his own, and Najenda says only dire circumstances will decide it. The meeting ends, and the team splits to patrol. Tatsumi walks with Akame, asking about her sword, the same blade that nearly ended him once. Akame admits caring for Murasame is delicate. Even a scratch on her own finger could be fatal. Worse, against heavy armor, the curse is useless, as it has to cut flesh. High above, Zank is already watching. His eyes lock onto Tatsumi as his next game. Later, while Tatsumi excuses himself during a meal, he suddenly spots Sayo, his dead friend, alive. Shocked, he follows her outside the city, only to realize it is an illusion, and Zank has used his weapon against him. The Imperial arms Zank wields is the spectator's eye. Embedded in his head, it lets him read minds and predict movements. As he taunts Tatsumi with his power, Tatsumi lunges at him, but every slash and strike is dodged. Zank counters with brutal precision, leaving Tatsumi bloodied. For Zank, the joy is in his victim's expressions. He wants Tatsumi's terrified face as his next trophy. Tatsumi's last desperate strike barely grazes his cheek. It isn't enough. But then, Akame arrives. Zank laughs, thrilled to finally face a worthy opponent. Tatsumi warns her about the eye's ability, but Akame is unfazed. If he can see her attacks, she will simply overwhelm him with anticipation and speed. The duel between two Imperial arms wielders is flawless, each strike and parry perfect. Zank tries to rattle Akame, asking if she hears the screams of everyone she has slain, just as he does every night. But Akame's answer is cold and flat, she hears nothing. Enraged, Zank changes tactics, projecting the image of her sister Kurome, but even that fails, and Akame admits she loves Kurome, which is why she intends to end her. Then she unleashes her full strength. Zank's blade shatters, and Murasame cuts clean across his throat. As he falls, for the first time, Zank, freed from the voices of his countless victims, finds peace in death. After the fight, Tatsumi dreams of his two old friends giving him their final goodbye, wishing that in the next life they can be together longer than they are now. He wakes up short of breath and finds Shili asleep by his bedside, and that day he is assigned to train with her. At breakfast, Lubbock and Leone question whether it is wise to let Tatsumi train with Shili, but Najenda replies simply that to become a hunter he must learn how to die, and her words make the two doubt her sanity. Later, Shili begins Tatsumi's training by making him swim in full armor, which she calls basic practice. She explains she has time to help because she has no chores at the base, as she is a walking disaster, useless at most things. Growing up, she was a disgrace to her family, with only one girl willing to be her friend. But when that friend's abusive boyfriend attacked her, Shiel slits his throat. At that moment, she felt calm and focused. The police called it self-defense, but when the man's friends later came after her, she ended them with the same calmness. That is when she realizes her true ability is eliminating the kingdom's garbage. The police branded her a murderer, but the revolutionaries took her in. Hearing this, Tatsumi reflects that everyone carries their own burdens. He wonders if he can ever become as strong as the others. Back at base, Najenda gives him Zank's weapon, the eye that can read minds. When Tatsumi tries it, all he sees are people's clothes disappearing. Flustered, he collapses from the weapon's backlash, and Najenda explains that his compatibility is too low. Mine mocks him for his weakness, unaware of what he has just seen. Since Tatsumi can't use it, Najenda plans to return the weapon to the revolutionary headquarters, as collecting lost weapons is one of their ongoing missions. Najenda shows Tatsumi a list of the other weapons. When he asks which is strongest, she explains it depends entirely on compatibility. Still, she believes the most powerful is the weapon that controls ice, currently wielded by the general who attacks the northern land ruled by Prince Seika, who defends the north with brilliant tactics. The capital sees him as a threat, but that existence is not Night Raid's concern for now. Tatsumi then asks if one of the weapons might have the power to revive the dead. Everyone freezes, as such a thing is impossible. Even the king who commissions the weapons knows that he'll be dead at any time. That night, unable to sleep, he sits outside. Shiel finds him and comforts him as he breaks down, mourning the permanent loss of his friends. She hugs him from behind, letting him cry, and keeps it a secret. Meanwhile, in the north, its people are crushed under colonization. Their hero, the prince, dies like an animal at the feet of an enemy who lives only for war. The next day, Leone takes Tatsumi to the marketplace, where she is well known. She grew up there, though trouble followed from debt collectors and gamblers whom she had cheated. In the palace, the king is briefed on two generals defecting to join the revolution. His cabinet panics, but the young King Kute declares there is no need for fear, as he will send the army once all the rebels gather in one place. Prime Minister Honest, chewing raw meat, warns that the real threat is Night Raid's growing persistence. He suggests calling upon General Esdeath, the merciless Ice Queen who has subdued the north, and the only one worthy of hunting them down. Back at the marketplace, Tatsumi gets separated from Leone and encounters a police officer named Seryu, along with her balloon-like dog Goro. Tatsumi quickly realizes Goro is one of the ancient weapons list. Alarmed, he rushes back to inform Najenda, but unbeknownst to him, Seryu was Ogre's disciple, and her mission is to hunt down the person who ended him. On another mission, Tatsumi is paired with Leone. Together they move across the rooftops of the Red Light District, Leone shifting into her lion form and taking Tatsumi to leap from roof to roof. She leads him to a brothel where the owner keeps girls locked in a room, drugging them with smoke until they overdose. Any girl who collapses is discarded like trash, and Leone recognizes one of the victims. Without hesitation, they strike. Tatsumi fights with newfound precision, attacking without doubt, knowing his targets deserve it. Leone finishes off the gang, but when they leave, she admits helping the girls isn't their duty. Still, she knows a doctor who can save them. Tatsumi smiles at the flicker of kindness in her face. Elsewhere, Shiel and Mine encounter Seryu, which is the moment Seryu has long awaited. For her father and her teacher, She will hunt their murderers without mercy. Mine fires first, but Koro blocks the shot. With every strike, Koro grows larger and more vicious, obeying Sarayu's command to end them. Shiel shields Mine and counters with her scissors, while Mine takes Koro's attention away from the owner. In the corner, Shiel lands a critical strike on Sarayu. But Sarayu's body, modified into a living weapon, reveals a hidden gun. She orders Koro into a frenzy. The beast nearly crushes Mine, but Shiel intercepts, severing Koro's arm. It is her fatal mistake, as suddenly, Sarayu fires point blank, and Koro tears her apart. In front of Mine's eyes, Shiel's body is broken. Yet with her last strength, she blinds the arriving police, allowing Mine to escape. In her final moments, she thinks only of the people who have accepted her, who have given her life meaning. Then her light fades. Sarayu smiles like a victor, deranged and triumphant, vowing to hunt the rest of Night Raid. Rain falls as if the sky itself mourns. At base, Mine returns in grief, and the group weeps for Shiel. Tatsumi, in shock, demands revenge, but Bulat strikes him to his senses, reminding him that vengeance will only lead to his death. Quietly, Mine swears to herself that she will end Sarayu the next time they cross paths. But there is no time to grieve, as on the edge of the capital, the Dami-Mami, General Esdeath has arrived. When General Esdeath arrives at the castle, Prime Minister Honest praises her conquest of the Northern Kingdom. King Kute offers her gold, but she refuses, insisting the soldiers receive it instead. She cares nothing for money or politics, only for war and victory, and as long as Honest controls Kute, Esdeath can do whatever she pleases. It is a perfect arrangement. Now back in the capital, Esdeath is ready to hunt Night Raid, or perhaps even her secret search for love. At Night Raid's base, Akame cares for Mine, while Tatsumi still struggles to accept that Sheila's murderer is Sarayu. Meanwhile, Esdeath assembles her 3 loyal servants: Liver, the silver-haired warrior, Nayu, the little blonde boy, and Daidara, the masked brute. Later at night, both Tatsumi and Akame finally release their sadness over Shiel's death. Akame may look fine, but it is because she has to, as she's not that heartless after all. So Tatsumi makes a promise to live and survive, so Shiel's death is not pointless. After mourning Shiel, Tatsumi spars with Akame, with Bulat joining in to sharpen his skills. But while they train, Esdeath's servants assassinate a political leader opposing Honest and twist the story, framing Night Raid for the crime. Najenda immediately sees through the plot, so their new mission: protect other political figures still resisting Honest, as they will be the next targets. Tatsumi is assigned to guard one politician aboard a massive border ship, Akame to cover those on a charity mission, and Leone to watch Esdeath. On the ship, Tatsumi disguises himself as a guest, while Bulat uses his armor's invisibility to stay hidden. To pass the time, Bulat tells Tatsumi about his past, of how he once served under an honorable general who refused bribes. That general was imprisoned on false charges, and Bulat himself was branded a criminal. He fled, never seeing his mentor again. Then Nayao's flute begins to play, its sound sapping strength from everyone who hears it, including Tatsumi. Daidara strikes, wielding his boomerang-like sword. Tatsumi tries to fight back, but Bulat stops him, as it is his turn to demonstrate what it means to fight as a pro. Summoning Incursio, Bulat launches into battle. Liver and Niao attack from behind, but Bulat's speed overwhelms them. He dodges, counters with a crushing kick, and slices Daidara down in a single strike. But the fight isn't over. Liver rises again, unfazed, and to Bulat's shock, he realizes the truth that Liver is the very general who once saved him. Liver recognizes Bulat instantly, and the feeling is mutual. But Liver declares he has long abandoned his title as general after Esdeath saves him, and now that both have chosen their paths, there is no need for formalities. Wielding an ancient weapon from the Black Marlin Kingdom, Liver can manipulate any liquid. With the battle taking place at sea, the advantage is already his. He strikes first with a crushing wave, while Tatsumi leaps at Niao to stop him from interfering with his flute. Niao's speed is overwhelming, but Tatsumi has sparred with Akame, who's faster than anyone else, so he pushes back, matching Niao's agility. Meanwhile, Bulat and Liver clash with all their strength, each fully aware of the other's capabilities from their shared past. Their duel cracks Bulat's helmet, weakening Incursio's power. Both are battered and near their limits. Liver bleeding from his ears, Bulat staggering within his armor. Still, Liver tries to sway him, promising power and fear if he joins Esdeath's ranks. But Bulat refuses, and he will fight for the people, never for another tyrant. The two charge again, this time barehanded. Beforehand, Liver injects himself with what Bane has been using, amplifying his strength. Their fight rages evenly until Bulat shatters Liver's sword and cuts him down. But Liver, refusing to fall, weaponizes his own blood in a final desperate strike. The injection is poisonous, coursing into Bulat's body with every attack. In the end, their strength is equal, and both collapse. Liver dead first, Bulat fatally poisoned. Now it is up to Tatsumi. Now unleashes his flute's true power, transforming from a delicate boy into a hulking brute. Tatsumi despairs, certain he can't win in his condition. But Bulat entrusts him with Incursio, believing Tatsumi's spirit makes him compatible. When Tatsumi activates Incursio, the armor roars with the essence of its legendary beast. Fueled by his determination, the weapon evolves under his will. In one strike, Tatsumi launches Now across the deck, smashing him into the wall like broken meat. With his last breath, Bulat smiles, telling Tatsumi without words that his future will be greater than his own. Bulat dies with that same smile, and grieving the loss of another comrade, Tatsumi vows to wield Incursio wisely and with honor. Elsewhere, in a small town, a pile of corpses burns. Sitting atop them is Kurome, and her next mission is to head to the capital to meet the only person she is excited to see, her sister Akame. Days after Bulat's death, Tatsumi and Lubbock are the only men left in the group, both pushing themselves to grow stronger just as Bulat had. Mine, now fully healed, also joins their training. Najenda is glad to see the group working hard, but she knows something else is urgent, recruiting new members. With the losses they have suffered and the enemy's overwhelming strength, she can't let things slide. She decides to travel to the revolutionary base camp herself. Meanwhile, Esdeath mourns the loss of her 3 subordinates, but to her, death only means weakness, and those bums deserve their fate. Now she needs a new squad, stronger ones who can serve as her elite agents. Among the new recruits is Wave, a beachside boy who has just arrived in the capital. His awkward, out-of-place behavior catches people's whispers, but he ignores them, walking straight into the palace where the candidates are assembled. Inside, Wave quickly realizes none of them are normal. There is the shy, masked giant Bowles, Kurome, with her deadpan face, the unhinged Suryu with her demon hound Koro, and her questionable ally Dr. Stylish, and finally Run, the graceful, pretty-faced man. Their introduction is brutal. Esdeath greets them with a sudden kick, testing their reflexes. Wave gets an instant kick, Run dodges easily. Suryu tries to strike from behind, only to be countered, and Kurome manages to land a blow that cracks Esdeath's mask. Their initiation is complete, their uniforms assigned, and their name declared the Jaegers. Their mission is to eliminate all defectors who threaten the Empire's stability, and not achieve freedom with Iren. At their base, Esdeath even mentions taking Shiel's Tegu for their use, before Honest can claim it for himself. Elsewhere, Tatsumi follows Lubbock into his secret hideout, where Leone is already waiting. With Mine now wanted, only the 3 of them can still move freely. But their situation is dire, as the Jaegers are already the talk of the capital. Tatsumi still can't understand why Esdeath is so revered. So Lubbock explains that years ago, when a rebellious clan defied the Empire, both Najenda and Esdeath were dispatched as generals to crush it. Esdeath revels in the bloodshed. She loves the idea of people's heads under her mercy. She spares a few survivors deliberately, letting them spread tales of terror so rebellions will continue, and so she can indulge in war endlessly. That is when Najenda saw the corrupted horror and chose to part ways with her. Leone, who has once felt Esdeath's aura firsthand, describes it as monstrous, more beast than human. Not long after, Esdeath announces a grand tournament with riches promised to the winner. Lubbock suggests Tatsumi join, as the prize money can be used to help his hometown. In another part of the palace, Emperor Kote asks Honest what kind of man Esdeath seeks as a partner. Honest claims no one will meet her standards, but Kote reveals her list that she wants someone younger, from outside the capital, with untapped potential, bravery, and, above all, an innocent look. When the tournament begins, Esdeath is secretly scouting for someone worthy of wielding Shiel's weapon, but none of the contenders catch her eye. Until Tatsumi, facing a Minotaur, he defeats it without even relying on Incursio, proof of how much stronger he has become. His victory, and more importantly, the smile he gives to the cheering crowd, rizzes up hot mommy Esdeath instantly. She descends from the podium to meet him face to face, but instead of gold, his prize is a chain, and Tatsumi is now her pet and lover. On his first night as Esdeath's pet, Tatsumi is forced to watch the Jaegers at work. From a distance, Esdeath holds his hand like an obsessed, toxic ex, while her squad carries out their mission. The first thing Tatsumi notices is Seryu. Rage flares inside him, but he remembers Bulat's words that anger alone is never enough to survive. For a moment, he thinks of escaping, but with Esdeath clinging to him, it is impossible. What he sees instead leaves him shaken. Seryu has become a walking machine of destruction with Koro's abilities, a transformation designed by Dr. Stylish. Kurome fights with the same speed as Akame, balanced by Wave's counterattacks. Outside, Bowles unleashes flames with his ancient weapon, while Run soars above with angelic wings that turn feathers into blades. Together they crush their enemies with ease, and Tatsumi realizes just how terrifyingly strong the Jaegers truly are. Esdeath, meanwhile, is genuinely smitten. Tatsumi thinks he might use this to change her, but it isn't so simple. Later in her quarters, fresh from a shower and looking like a snack, she tries to seduce him. Tatsumi refuses, declaring he can never love someone who supports the corrupt government that has ruined his life. Instead of sympathy, he gets a slap. Esdeath's affection doesn't change her loyalty to the Empire, and she demands that Tatsumi follow her path. Even after her kiss, Tatsumi stands firm. Eventually, Esdeath ends the argument and goes to sleep, warning him not to try anything foolish, or it will cost his life. That night, Tatsumi lies uneasily in her arms, unable to relax for even a moment. In the morning, Tatsumi speaks with Kurome and Wave. when Tatsumi mentions that Kurome looks like Akame. Kurome admits the truth that Akame is her sister. Since Akame has turned against the Empire, Kurome now sees her as an enemy she must hunt. Their conversation is interrupted when Esdeath enters, announcing a new mission in the fake mountain. During the mission, Tatsumi is paired with Wave. To his surprise, they aren't so different after all. Tatsumi prepares to slip away when tree-like monsters suddenly attack. The two fight side by side, but once the battle ends, Tatsumi uses Incursio to flee into the forest. Wave, however, isn't far behind. Wielding the Grand Chariot, an imitation of Incursio, he confronts Tatsumi. Believing Night Raid owns Incursio, Wave attacks with full force, while Tatsumi holds back, not wanting to fight. Fueled by hatred for Night Raid, Wave presses harder, finally kicking Tatsumi into the river. Using Incursio's invisibility, Tatsumi narrowly escapes. Another danger looms again from a monster, but luck is still on his side because Akame appears, cutting it down and saving him. At last, Tatsumi is back among his comrades. Though the reunion is touching, Lubbock quickly whisks him away before the Jaegers can track them. Back with the Jaegers, Wave is punished harshly by Esdeath for losing her pet. Meanwhile, at Night Raid's hideout, Tatsumi shares everything he has learned from the Jaegers' terrifying weapons to Kurome's presence. Akame says that her sister calls her a traitor because Kurome still defends the government, and now she swears that, as long as Esdeath lives, she will end her. But danger is already closing in. From the shadows, Dr. Stylish and his mutant troops have discovered Night Raid's base camp. After Tatsumi's welcome celebration, the camp is still heavy with drink when Leonie, the first to rise, goes to wash up. In the spring, she is ambushed by one of Dr. Stylish's mutants. The other mutant troops have infiltrated the base and strike while everyone is hungover. Lubbock is the first to engage. His strings trap one mutant, but brute strength alone isn't enough. Forced to concentrate fully, he wraps himself in strings for defense and turns his binding strings into a piercing spear to land a finishing blow. But then more mutants come after him. Just as he is cornered, Akame intervenes, cutting them down in a single swing. Then, a stronger foe appears, Toby, modified by Dr. Stylish into a weaponized body of blades and guns. His target is Akame, while two massive mutants emerge to occupy Lubbock. Outside, Tatsumi clashes with a hulking enemy wielding Extase, a weapon that used to belong to Shield. Rage flares and he fights with all his might, but Extase's power rivals Incursio's, shattering Tatsumi's blade. Dr. Stylish, watching from afar, doesn't care how many of his mutants fall. But before Tatsumi is overwhelmed, Mine arrives. Recognizing Extase, she refuses to let anyone defile Shield's memory. Her energy shots burn the wielder to ash, and finally, the weapon returns to Night Raid, while Mine cries for it in silence. From above, Najenda arrives on a flying manta beast, bringing two new recruits. Thanks to an oracle at the revolutionary camp, they have foreseen the ambush and return just in time. Meanwhile, Akame battles Toby, whose artificial body makes her curse ineffective. She resorts to chopping him apart piece by piece like Lego parts, while Lubbock spear pins him long enough for Akame to sever his head. In the rear, Mine spots Najenda's beast. Relieved, the skies are secure, but the real threat lurks below. The assassin who attacked Leonie earlier. He aims for Mine, only for Leonie to reappear, furious. She strangles him, bites the knife from his boot before it can slash her, and smashes him to the ground, straight to his death. As the group gathers, Dr. Stylish unleashes his last wave of mutants and poisons the air, paralyzing everyone except Tatsumi, who is shielded by Incursio. Najenda then orders their new recruit to act, Susanoo, a towering horned man. With a weapon like a massive 5-blade fan, he cuts through mutants without pause. Stylish counters by detonating his minions, but Susanoo survives, revealing his secret. He is the ancient weapon itself, the living biological weapon, capable of regenerating. From above, Najenda spots Stylish on the cliff and commands Susanoo to attack him. Cornered, Stylish fuses with his own creations, mutating into a grotesque giant by devouring his subordinates, but it is not enough for him. He targets Susanoo. Tatsumi and Akame decide to jump in. Mine also helps by shooting Stylish from above with Najenda, making him fall to the ground, giving Tatsumi and Akame the opportunity to strike while Susanoo holds it from behind. Tatsumi launches forward, carrying Akame on his back. With a final leap, Akame vaults off Tatsumi and slashes Stylish's chest before he can evolve further. By sunrise, the battle is over, and Dr. Stylish lies dead. After the attack, Najenda leads Night Raid to relocate, moving them into a new hideout within Marg Valley, a place infested with dangerous monsters where no ordinary human dares to enter. The revolutionaries promise to later provide them with an official base, but for now, this valley is their shelter, and it is also the moment to welcome the new recruits. First comes Chelsea, bubbly, sharp-tongued, and immediately disliked by Mine. Yet she manages to win Akame over with something as simple as a piece of candy. Though her appearance seems ordinary, Najenda claims her power rivals Akame's. Second is Susanoo, Najenda's personal ancient weapon, a human-like biological weapon originally built to protect kings. He can fight, cook, clean, build, clap her good through night, and even something as simple as fixing Tatsumi's loose shirt. as his obsessive tendencies making him part warrior, part overpowered maid. Though both newcomers are promising, their fit within the group seems uncertain. Mine clashes with Chelsea's bluntness, while Lubbock resents Susanoo for instantly stealing the hot Chad role in camp. Meanwhile, back at the capital, Run and Bols investigate Dr. Stylish's absence. His home remains untouched, his belongings still in place. Esdeath, however, already knows the truth that he is dead. Once again, Suryu loses someone important. First her father, then her mentor, now her doctor. Though she puts on a brave face, when Esdeath asks if she is fine, the girl breaks down in tears. In that moment, Suryu devotes herself entirely to Esdeath and all of her purpose in life. At the new base, Najenda briefs her squad. The Empire is reinforcing its military, and Night Raid can expect no further reinforcements, and these 2 recruits will be their last. All they can do now is survive, finish their missions, and hold out until the day of revolution. Group bonding follows. Susanoo wins everyone over easily, as his cooking is excellent, and he proves invaluable in training. Chelsea, on the other hand, tests boundaries. She tricks Mine and steals her cake, revealing her ancient weapon is Gaia Foundation. With it, she can transform her appearance through makeup, perfectly suited for infiltration and disguise. During training, Tatsumi spars with Leone in a monster lair. To her surprise, he has already learned to summon in Curcio's spear, just as Bulat once had. Proud but unwilling to be outdone, Leone relies on her instincts, hunts down the pack's leader, and ends it with a beast's ferocity. It has been a month, and Najenda asks Chelsea how she feels about the team. Chelsea smiles, admitting they are stronger than her former group, but she also warns them that they are naive. She recalls Shiel and Bulat's deaths as proof and urges them to abandon that weakness if they truly wish to survive. Later that night, Mine, still angry about Chelsea's words, invite Tatsumi and Lubbock to help her teach Chelsea some respect. Lubbock devises a prank. Tatsumi will use Incursio's invisibility to sneak up on her while she bathes, but Chelsea turns the tables. She transforms into Susanoo, calling out Tatsumi even while he is invisible. Embarrassed, he apologizes, realizing his mistake. In turn, Chelsea shares her truth that after one mission, she returns to find her entire squad massacred. That loss drives her harshness, and she simply can't bear to see another comrade die. Tatsumi finally understands her and smiles, relieved that Chelsea truly cares about the group. Far away, Esdeath patrols as usual, though her thoughts never stray far from Tatsumi. Run, walking behind her, mentions that he has found people resembling him and offers to investigate, but Esdeath refuses, as no lookalike can fool her, not even if she wishes it, but secretly Run's real mission is to monitor Esdeath's every move. Still, Esdeath's heart whispers that fate will bring her and Tatsumi together again, whether in reunion or in battle. Elsewhere, within a quarry, miners scream as monsters are unleashed upon them. Inside the palace, King Kute praises Esdeath and the Jaegers for their success in protecting the capital from rebellion, especially with the Night Raid still in hiding. Then the king turns to Esdeath's personal life, noting her devotion to the missing man. He suggests Honest Son as a replacement, but Esdeath refuses, declaring she will only bump bellies with the one she loves. Tatsumi and her unwavering loyalty makes the king ponder the nature of love itself. Later, Honest speaks with Esdeath about the monsters now plaguing the city and its outskirts. Their human-like forms intrigue him, and he orders Esdeath to both suppress and capture them for his experiments. Excited by the prospect of new toys, Honest leaves the task in her hands, and Esdeath agrees. That evening, a group of merchants tries to reach the city before nightfall, but is ambushed by monsters. Just as all seems lost, Bols appears, burning the creatures with his flames. Though he saves them, the merchants get scared of his terrifying appearance. It isn't until Saru and her sweet smile reassuring them that they calm down. Watching from the side, Wave pities Bols for being misunderstood despite his gentle heart, while elsewhere, Esdeath uses her ice to capture 3 monsters. At the Jaegers base, Bols serves tea to Wave and Kurome. Wave mentions how people fear him, but Bols admits he has already accepted that his past sins will always haunt him, and that if being feared is the price of saving lives, then he's ready to face it. Just then, his wife and daughter appear, delivering his forgotten lunchbox, and Bols gets jolly. As for him, as long as his family accepts him, he needs nothing more. Meanwhile, Tatsumi trains with Susanoo at a waterfall, striking the falling rocks. Though his punches seem perfect, Susanoo corrects him, saying that true strength comes not from brute force but from finding weak points, even in stone. Demonstrating flawlessly, Susanoo impresses Tatsumi, who is grateful to call him not just a weapon, but a true friend. Soon after, Akame arrives, calling them to their new base camp that seems no different than the previous one. Inside, Najenda gives them the brief about the mission that monsters are now openly attacking the city, and they move in packs, display human-like intelligence, and pose an escalating threat. The Jaegers are also deployed, but Night Raid will strike only at night to avoid direct confrontation with them. Their goal remains the same of protecting the people, but Chelsea warns them once more that this kindness will be their downfall, just like Shiel and Bulat. Back at the palace, Esdeath hits a dead end in her investigation, and the government suspects the monsters were once human. Run reaches the same conclusion, noting their appearance. Their 2 explanations seem possible: that an ancient weapon capable of transformation, or a lunatic scientist experimenting on humans, and Run believes only one man fits that description, Dr. Stylish. He says that his abandoned lab seems empty when the last time he checked, hinting there must be a hidden facility, and the monsters likely originate there. But he wonders how can they escape on their own, or maybe someone deliberately unleashed them. Elsewhere, at night, Tatsumi and Lubbock patrol the mountains. During their watch, the two share a quiet conversation. Tatsumi asks why Lubbock always speaks so casually with Najenda. Lubbock confesses his truth that he has known her since her days as a captain, and joined the army because of her. When Najenda defected, he faked his death to follow her, driven by his love for her. Their talk ends as Tatsumi climbs to the mountain's peak, and everything is calm initially until Esdeath descends from the sky, ready to slaughter what she thinks is an enemy. But when she recognizes Tatsumi, her icy, terrifying demeanor melts into a girlish sugar baby delight. But their reunion is cut short. From the opposite side, monsters charge, only to be slaughtered instantly by Esdeath, furious that they have dared to interrupt her Doki Doki moment. This is only their second meeting. Yet Esdeath looks less like the terrifying general everyone fears and more like an ordinary young woman. From his hiding spot on a cliff, Lubbock senses an enormous presence nearby. He quickly crouches in the bushes, not daring to move, and waits for Tatsumi to return. But Tatsumi is already caught in Esdeath's company. Esdeath asks Tatsumi why he is on the mountain, and to avoid suspicion, Tatsumi says he is hunting monsters. Esdeath narrows her eyes and immediately presses him, questioning if he has joined the revolutionaries. Tatsumi stands his ground, firmly declaring that he would never serve her. Instead of punishing him, Esdeath praises his progress, telling him he has grown stronger. Their quiet moment ends abruptly when Esdeath stiffens. She senses another presence, and this one far more sinister. The true source of the monster attacks. A strange man appears, wielding an ancient weapon once belonging to Emperor Shambhala. Without warning, he activates it, and both Tatsumi and Esdeath are swallowed by its power and thrown onto a deserted island far away. Shaken, Tatsumi wonders if what he is experiencing is real. He asks Esdeath to hurt him just to make sure. Instead of giving him a simple pinch, she presses her lips against his, leaving him speechless. She stays perfectly calm, unfazed by his shock, and explains that the ancient weapon they encountered can bend time and space itself, one of the strongest abilities in existence. Esdeath adapts quickly to their new situation. She raises an ice tower into the sky to scout the surroundings. From the top, there is nothing but endless ocean in every direction. Far from discouraged, Esdeath is strangely thrilled, treating their predicament like a romantic date. But her playful mood does not last. From the shore, a gigantic creature rises. Tatsumi thinks it looks eerily similar to one of Dr. Stylish's creations. Esdeath reacts instantly, firing sharp ice bullets that tear through the monster. It collapses but struggles to rise again. When she moves to finish it, the creature dodges, forcing Tatsumi to leap forward and strike its head. Just as the fight seems over, another giant surges from the waves and begins toppling her ice tower. With a sadistic smile, Esdeath drops a massive boulder of ice, crushing the monster completely. Tatsumi can only stare, both horrified and impressed by the sheer scale of her power. After the battle, the two spend the day together like a stranded couple. As night falls, Esdeath finally deduces their location to an isolated island far southeast of the Empire. She again tries to seduce Tatsumi, but he resists, insisting they must focus on survival and finding a way back. Though disappointed, she calms herself and considers their options to either wait until the portal reopens or attempt to capture sea monsters large enough to ride back. Still, she insists they spend the night together, calling it their pump and dump night. She asks about his past, and Tatsumi shares that he learned swordsmanship and blacksmithing from a retired soldier in his village. Hoping to draw out her humanity, he asks about her childhood. Esdeath opens up. She tells him she was born in a harsh northern border village, the daughter of the chieftain. Life was cruel, dictated by survival of the fittest, where her father raised her as a hunter. But one day, while she was away on a hunt, the northern kingdom attacked. She returned to find her village burned and her father dying. With his last breath, he told her to live by one rule, that only the strongest survive. She embraced his words, rose through the capital's army, and became the youngest general. When Tatsumi asks if her campaign against the Northern Kingdom was revenge, she shakes her head. She admits she hates them, but insists her actions are duty, not vengeance. More than anything, she loves the thrill of victory. When Tatsumi questions her incredible power, she explains further that Prime Minister Honest offered her a choice of ancient weapons. She chose not a blade or artifact, but the blood of a legendary beast. Its rage and greed resonated perfectly with her heart, amplifying her lust for battle. Hearing this, Tatsumi realizes she is beyond changing, and she is addicted to war, a true sadist who finds joy in bloodshed. Meanwhile, back in the capital, the mastermind behind the portal reopens it. He assumes Esdeath and Tatsumi are either weakened or already dead, and the culprit is revealed to be Honest's illegitimate son, a desperate man eager to outshine his father. On the island, a glowing portal finally appears before Tatsumi. He hesitates, considering whether to leave Esdeath behind. Yet, remembering the time she shielded him, he calls out for her. But when she returns, Tatsumi has already vanished, hidden under Incursio's invisibility. Believing he has simply stepped through to another place, Esdeath remains on the island, her heart strangely longing for their next encounter. Tatsumi, on the other hand, silently vows that when they meet again, things will never happen the same way. The next day, after Tatsumi returns to the hideout, Chelsea heads out on a solo mission. By sheer luck, she manages to escape as a cat before Wave and Kurome can ambush her. With the monsters cleared from the city, the Jaegers turn their attention back to hunting Night Raid. Leone keeps teasing Tatsumi about his so-called date with Esdeath, while Lubbock sulks, complaining that at least Tatsumi got to go on a date with someone, even if it was the busty general. Later, everyone gathers in the dining room. Nashenda walks in and announces that the Revolutionary Army and Night Raid are preparing to take their next major step against the Empire. Meanwhile, Seiryu grows more ruthless than ever. When she catches 3 starving citizens who tried to steal food, she has Koro devour the 2 men and then personally ends the woman. Wave confronts her, unsettled by her cruelty, but Seiryu simply smiles and insists that crime is still crime, and as guardians of justice, they are right to eliminate wrongdoers. Wave doesn't agree with her methods, but he forces himself to stay focused on his duty. Back at Night Raid's base, Nagenda lays out their strategy and explains that a religious group called the Path of Peace has been growing rapidly in the East. They preach long life and good fortune through virtuous living, and their teachings have already reached as far as Tatsumi's village. The Empire wants to try crushing them, but if they fall, other uprisings will take their place, and Nagenda sees this as the revolution's chance to gain momentum. The plan is that when the Path of Peace expands its army, their ally in the western region will launch an invasion, forcing the Emperor to split his forces. At the same time, the Revolutionary Army in the south will march toward the capital, supported by high-ranking allies who can break through fortresses, but the biggest obstacle will be General Budo. If he leaves the capital to intercept them, the city's defenses will weaken, giving Night Raid the chance to strike at Prime Minister Honest. As part of the deal, the revolution will restore the western territories to their rightful clans, taking them back from the Emperor, and if everything works, they may avoid a drawn-out war. But Nagenda warns them that a government spy named Borick has infiltrated the Path of Peace, and he is trying to overthrow the group's leader to stop their military growth. Worse, he has been secretly poisoning food, turning followers into mindless puppets, so eliminating him becomes Night Raid's new mission. Next, the Jaegers remain a constant threat, and as long as Esdeath commands them, Night Raid cannot move freely. So Nagenda decides to draw them out, specifically targeting Kurome and Bowles. Tatsumi, though conflicted because of his past encounters with them, must be prepared to fight without hesitation. Elsewhere, Esdeath receives reports of Night Raid activity in the east near Romery City. She carefully predicts Nagenda's movements of splitting forces toward the Path of Peace base at Kyorach in the east and toward the Revolutionary Army in the south. She arranges her squads accordingly. Esdeath, Seiryu, and Run will track Nagenda's group, while Kurome, Bowles, and Wave will hunt Akame's team. She makes it clear that retreat is acceptable, as she refuses to waste her soldiers' lives recklessly. Just as Nagenda predicts, Kurome, Bowles, and Wave intercept Akame's squad, and the clash begins immediately. From a distance, Mine opens fire on Kurome, but Kurome dodges with the same sharp instincts as her sister. The battle ignites in full force. Wave is struck early on, leaving Bowles and Kurome more exposed, the real targets of Night Raid's ambush. But Bowles, fueled by his devotion to his family, refuses to fall without a fight, and Kurome unveils her new Tegu, Yatsufusa, a terrifying weapon that allows her to command an army of puppets made from the corpses of her slain enemies. Akame charges first, locking blades with her sister, who stands high on the hulking form of Destagul. The clash stops when a familiar face steps into the fray. Natala, an old comrade long dead, now forced into service as one of Kurome's puppets. Kurome smirks, declaring she'll do the same with Akame, keeping her forever as her eternal companion. On the ground, Bowles unleashes fire from his massive gun, but Tatsumi dashes in and drags Akame clear, reminding her she can't carry this fight alone. Kurome escalates, ordering Destagul to fire a massive blast of energy that tears through the field. Nagenda and her squad barely evade the explosion. At range, Mine steadies Pumpkin while Lubbock lurks unseen, ready for an ambush. Even with Kurome isolated, her army of corpses tilts the balance. Susanoo engages Destagul head-on, buying time, while Mine aims directly for Kurome's head, but Natala reacts, hurling his sword to ruin her shot. Another puppet, Doya, a northern assassin, leaps in as well. Tatsumi faces the ape-man alongside Henter, a shadow-wreathed assassin immune to normal blades. Akame tries to cut down Bowles, but is blocked by Wall, once a stalwart bodyguard. Murasame cannot pierce his deadened flesh. Leone barrels in to assist, but Rokugo, an ex-general wielding a whip, ensnares her and yanks her off her feet, and Kurome gloats over her collection of the undead. Tatsumi struggles against 2 relentless foes, while Leone suffers a crushing blow that severs her left arm. Roaring through the pain, she tries to push on, but Nagenda orders her to regroup with Akame instead. Elsewhere, Esdeath races after what appears to be Nagenda, only to realize too late she has been deceived. Her unit stumbles into an ambush of bandits, her fury simmering. Back with Akame, She maneuvers against Bowles but is forced into direct combat. She finally drives her blade past Wall's guard, stabbing at Bowles' chest only to be stopped by his armor. When Bowles asks why she chose this bloody path, Akame replies without hesitation that the revolution is her truth. Bowles acknowledges her conviction but swears his duty is to incinerate it. Leone rejoins, backing Akame with fierce resolve. Najenda duels Rokugo, once her commanding officer. Familiar with his every movement, she counters precisely, severing his head. Yet even headless, the puppet fights on. Enraged at this disrespect, Najenda crushes him completely with sheer force. Meanwhile, Tatsumi is saved when Chelsea slips in disguised as one of Henter's kin. Her ruse distracts the shadow puppet, just long enough for Tatsumi to land a fatal strike. Chelsea slips away, knowing this battle is not hers to finish. Fueled by rage at Kurome's use of the dead, Tatsumi smashes through the ape man and reduces it to lifeless remains once again. High above, Kurome notices 3 of her puppets gone. Grimly, she calls forth her hidden trump card, Kaiser Frog, a monstrous beast. Wave lies broken on the rocks nearby, too wounded to rise. Across the cliffs, Mine picks off Doya with a clean shot, but Kaiser Frog lashes out, snaring her in its acidic tongue. Kurome taunts her with Shield's death before attempting to finish her. At the last moment, Tatsumi dives in, cutting her free. Najenda commands Susanoo to unleash his ultimate power. He draws upon her own life force, transforming into a divine form. His mirror reflects enemy strikes, and his thunderous blade cleaves Destigul apart, reducing Kurome's beasts to ruin. Tatsumi battles fiercely with Natala, while Mine claws her way out of Kaiser Frog's stomach, body bruised but spirit unbroken. Najenda and Susanoo close in, tightening around Kurome. Akame and Leone push together against Bowles. When Wall shields him once again, Akame slices his legs clean, while Leone clamps down on the flame gun, tearing it apart. Akame follows through, beheading Wall at last. Cornered, Bowles makes his choice, and he primes his fuel tank, ready to engulf everyone in a final inferno. Bowles unleashes his fuel skyward, sparking it into a blazing detonation that erupts like a miniature sun. The shockwave blinds the battlefield. Natala shields Kurome from the searing heat, while Leone throws herself over Akame, absorbing the worst of it before collapsing in pain. Amid the chaos, Bowles slips away, staggering through the forest with the single thought of reuniting with his wife and daughter. But fate turns cruel, as in the woods he comes across a crying child. Compassion overrules his injuries, and he moves to help. The child raises her face, and it is Chelsea in disguise. With one swift motion, she drives a needle into the base of his skull. Bowles crumples, his last thoughts filled not with fear, but with the warmth of his family's embrace. From the shadows, Chelsea watches him fall, her disguise dissolving. Lubbock arrives moments later, urging her to retreat since Kurome has already escaped far ahead. But Chelsea refuses, and she insists that if she acts now, while Kurome is weakened and alone, she can finish her. She instructs Lubbock to rally reinforcements, while she presses forward in Bowles' guise. Elsewhere, Kurome leans against a rock, her breathing ragged, body trembling from exhaustion. Memories surface of the cruel assassin training of her youth. Out of 100 specimens thrown into monster-infested woods, only 7 survived, herself and Akame among them. Yet survival brought no comfort. Their handler despised attachments, so they split the sisters apart. Akame was chosen, while Kurome left behind. Another master stepped in, filling her veins with drugs that made her dependent, shaping her into something broken, a weapon instead of a girl. Back in the forest, Susanoo tends to the wounded, setting up a makeshift camp. Leone, despite her terrible injury, manages to stitch her severed arm back into place, using Lubbock's threads. Relief passes through the group until Lubbock returns with grim news that Chelsea is pursuing Kurome alone. Najenda's face hardens as she immediately orders Tatsumi and Akame to move after her. Meanwhile, Chelsea, still cloaked in Bowles' form, approaches Kurome. The younger sister doesn't notice the deception, too weak to sense danger. Step by step, Chelsea walks beside her, waiting for the perfect moment. When Kurome falters, reaching desperately for her next injection, Chelsea seizes the opening. She drives her needle into Kurome's neck, convinced the fight is over. Breathing out in relief, Chelsea begins to make her way back, reflecting on her past. She remembers serving under a sadistic noble who hunted humans for sport. In his underground lair, she discovered Gaia Foundation, the ancient weapon that resonated with her. Her very first assassination was that noble. And in that act, she felt the belief that she had finally done something good. But her thoughts shatter in an instant. Kurome staggers back to her feet, shadows swirling around her as unnatural power courses through her veins. With a mocking smile, she taunts Chelsea, telling her that a true assassin would have aimed for the head. Terror strikes Chelsea. She turns and flees through the trees, but Kurome's puppets are waiting. Natala and Doya close in, cutting off her escape. Doya fires, blasting into Gaia Foundation, while Natala's blade shears through her arms. Another bullet tears into her back, and she crashes to the dirt. Natala steps forward one last time and severs her head. Later, Tatsumi enters the city, clinging to fragile hope that Chelsea may still be alive. But that hope shatters at the town square. As high above, her severed head is mounted on a flagpole like a lollipop, a gruesome trophy for all to see. The morning after Chelsea's death, Tatsumi carries grief in his chest. But he knows there is no time to linger on it. Stepping out of camp, he reminds himself their mission comes first. The path of peace base at Kirach lies ahead, and Night Raid must move. At the estate, the Jaegers arrive before schedule, tasked with escorting Borick. The old man lounges among excess food, drink, women, and even offering his debauchery to Esdeath. She refuses with cold disdain, asking only that her soldiers be allowed to rest. Still, she insists on meeting the mysterious warriors who have been guarding Borick's side. They are introduced as the Four Horsemen, fighters reshaped through forbidden experiments. Twisted yet powerful, they serve both as Borick's bodyguards and as the base's frontline defenders. They boast with arrogance, claiming even Night Raid would fall to them, but Esdeath cuts through their pride with a warning not to underestimate their enemies. She notes a troubling detail that if Borick already commands modified enforcers of this level yet still requests her protection, then the Empire must value this religious faction far more than it admits. Meanwhile, Wave cannot stay calm, and Kurome had collapsed when he found her, and Bowles is gone forever. She may act composed before Esdeath, but in private her body trembles and weakens. When Wave gently asks if she is alright, she confesses she cannot ever show weakness, as weakness would mean expulsion, and expulsion would mean execution, and she knows too much to be allowed to live freely. In the city, Tatsumi and Mine blend in, posing as ordinary townsfolk. To ease her nerves, Tatsumi buys her ice cream, and the two walk together among the market stalls. To him, the city looks peaceful on the surface. Mine shakes her head, explaining that this is only Borick's illusion, and behind the smiles lies oppression from monopolized trade, stolen wealth, and people vanishing into the dark. Elsewhere, Lubbock wanders alone through another street. Unbeknownst to him, two of Borick's altered guards are already watching, waiting for their chance. That night, Akame meets with two Revolutionary Army spies. They share crucial intel that a hidden tunnel beneath the cemetery leads directly into Borick's estate, but they warn it could be a trap. Before Akame can act, she is confronted by Ibara, a former comrade from the Assassin Corps. His body, corrupted by Kraken flesh, twists and bends unnaturally. He sneers, declaring he will punish her betrayal of the Empire. Meanwhile, Lubbock is ambushed. Sten, a massive brute, smashes him into the ground with a devastating punch. Playing dead, Lubbock lies still, waiting for a chance to slip away. But Sten's attention shifts when he spots a young woman screaming in terror. Declaring her impure, he seizes to slaughter her. Lubbock's patience breaks. He rises, abandoning his ruse, unwilling to watch another innocent die. Akame locks blades with Ibara, his flexible body wrapping and striking at impossible angles. He reaches for her cursed sword, Murasame, but the moment his hand touches it, the curse spreads through his body. Writhing in agony, he falls, and Akame twists his neck and reclaims her weapon. When he makes one final desperate lunge, she severs him cleanly. But above, Run observes silently. He strikes once with his feathers, but sees her still standing, and vanishes into the night. Elsewhere, Lubbock duels both Sten and Mez. With his strings, he forges a spear thrusting forward, but Sten blocks. The delay buys the terrified damsel enough time to flee. Seizing the chance, Lubbock withdraws, baiting Sten into pursuit. In a flash, he ensnares the brute in a web of threads, slicing his neck and heart in a single strike. Mez, unshaken by her partner's death, advances without fear. Her body exudes sweat that thickens into oil, coating Lubbock's threads and rendering his traps useless. She overwhelms him with speed, crashing into him with a brutal blow. He staggers back, barely catching his breath. He fires his knife, but she dodges effortlessly. Grabbing him by the collar, she sneers, until she realizes too late that the knife is attached to strings. Lubbock yanks, and the blade arcs back into her body from behind. She gasps, stunned, before he delivers the finishing stab. While battles rage in the shadows, Tatsumi and Mine remain untouched, still waiting for word from their comrades. But their quiet is broken when they encounter the true high priest of the Path of Peace. After the deaths of Ibara, Mez, and Sten, the Jaegers remain stationed at the capital's castle. Seiryu, now more at ease, spends her time playing football with local children. Their laughter only deepens her conviction that all enemies of the Empire must be eradicated. At the Night Raid hideout, Najenda prepares a new operation. During the upcoming festival, they plan to use the commotion as cover to infiltrate the castle and assassinate Borick. If the mission succeeds, it will serve as the signal for the Revolutionary Army to march forward. When the festivities begin, Borick's final protector, Suzuka, immediately notices two clumsily disguised intruders, Tatsumi and Mine, but their appearance is no accident, as it's a ploy to draw the Jaegers away from the castle while the others slip inside. The distraction works perfectly. Seiryu, upon recognizing Mine, recalls her past duel with Sheila, and spotting Tatsumi ignites her fury, so she vows to end them both. Unleashing Koro's destructive arsenal, she rains explosions through the streets. Mine, sensing the gunpowder ahead of time, narrowly avoids disaster as Tatsumi shields her with Incursio and carries her into the mountains. Just when safety seems within reach, Suzuka ambushes them. Tatsumi pulls her into a duel, leaving Mine to face Seiryu alone. Seiryu fires a rocket through Koro, but Mine counters with her rifle's energy blast. Enraged, Seiryu charges, wrapped in Koro's protection, striking again with relentless force. Mine dodges, calmly dismissing Seiryu's cries of vengeance. To her, Seiryu is no different than the other zealots she has fought, like Ogre, Stylish, or any of the Empire's pawns. The clash intensifies. Mine's precision fire nearly tears Koro apart, but he mutates into his monstrous form. Even cornered, Mine manages to wound Seiryu with a shot to the ribs. Bloodied and furious, Seiryu retaliates with a hidden gunshot from her mouth and a crushing punch that sends Mine crashing to the ground. Meanwhile, Tatsumi battles Suzuka. Her claws slash at him as she mocks his strength, but he resists her taunts, fighting back with unwavering resolve. Within the castle walls, Susanoo drives Kurome into a corner. Her wounds leave her too slow to keep pace, and she nearly falls before Wave intervenes at the last moment, saving her from Susanoo's finishing blow. Elsewhere, Esdeath grows irritated with Borick. Stripped of his guards, the man whimpers for protection, his cowardice revolting her. Back among the ruins, Tatsumi loses patience with Suzuka's sneering. Calling upon the full might of Incursio, he brings the structure down around them, burying her beneath the rubble. Mine, broken and barely conscious, reflects on her childhood. She remembers the torment of being bullied, powerless, and her vow to erase cruelty from the world. With one last surge of strength, she rises. A final shot tears through both Koro and Seiryu, delivering a decisive blow. Defeated and desperate, Seiryu triggers the bomb hidden within her body, determined to take Mine with her. Too weak to escape, Mine braces herself for the end, as the explosion engulfs the battlefield in blinding light. When she awakens, she is still alive, and she realizes that Tatsumi saved her from the blast. In that fragile moment, Mine asks him to promise that he will survive until the war's conclusion. She too has something she wishes to tell him when it is all over. Inside the castle, Borick shrieks and throws tantrums like a spoiled child, refusing to listen even when Esdeath orders him to remain still. His life ends before he can react, as Najenda steps from the shadows, calmly explaining that Borick is already finished. Akame has discovered a secret passage, cut down his guards, and with Lubbock's threads left Borick dangling, his body hanged by the head. After Borick's death, the Revolutionary Army launches its rebellion as planned. Ministers gather in panic, but Honest remains calm. He insists he has anticipated this, since nearly every young lord across the land now opposes the Emperor. Then General Budo finally appears. Declaring his purpose to protect the realm, he joins the war. Honest reassures him, saying there is no need to worry, as he already has someone prepared. It is Suyura, his illegitimate son, wielder of the portal device. At the Jaegers base, only Kurome, Wave, and Run remain. Their morning feels strangely normal for once, until Kurome suddenly collapses mid-meal. Wave, already bitter over the government's betrayal, can only watch and worry. Meanwhile, the capital brims with armies, and war is inevitable. But for Night Raid, the goal is clear: assassinate Prime Minister Honest. Tatsumi and Lubbock scout the city, planning to meet rebel allies inside the castle. Najenda and Akame wait outside, while Leone and Mine take the underground passage. During the walk, Leone teases Mine about her closeness with Tatsumi after their fight with Seiryu. Mine blushes and denies it, though her feelings are obvious. At the same time, Lubbock teases Tatsumi about the same thing, and he denies it just as stubbornly. Their talk ends when a rebel guide shows up and leads Tatsumi and Lubbock into a storage building, where the others have supposedly gathered. Instead, the rebels are already dead, and their bodies suddenly explode, a trick straight from Dr. Stylish's experiments. It is Suyura's trap, and he steps out from the flames, sneering about how much fun it is to toy with humans. Tatsumi's rage flares, and he prepares to strike, but his path is blocked by General Budo. Wielding a Dramalek, the weapon forged from thunder, Budo declares he will fight Tatsumi himself. Tatsumi summons Incursio, while Suyura drags Lubbock away for his own game, ordering his men not to interfere. Suyura fights with his portals, darting freely across the battlefield. Boosted by injections, he can teleport without fatigue, overwhelming Lubbock at every turn. Even when Lubbock tries to escape into the air, Suyura drags him back down with a brutal kick. Elsewhere, Tatsumi clashes with the storm itself. Budo's power is immense, yet Tatsumi notices gaps in his movements. Impressed by his skill, Budo praises his resolve, but declares that anyone who defies the Emperor must die. He unleashes a thunderous strike, just as Tatsumi charges at his chest. Hearing Tatsumi scream, Lubbock tries to rush to him, but one of the rebels holds him back, claiming she acts to protect her family. Suyura ends her without hesitation, annoyed that she disturbs his game, and the sight disgusts Lubbock. At last, he unleashes his full strength. His strings fill the battlefield, severing Suyura's hand and capturing his portal device. Victory seems certain, until the rebel woman rises again and stabs Lubbock in the back, hoping Suyura will release her family. Tragically, he reveals that he has already ended them. Taking back his device, Suyura opens his favorite portal to banish Lubbock into nothingness, but Lubbock's strings remain bound to his wrist. With one last pull, he drags Suyura into the void with him. Before Suyura can escape, Lubbock pierces his chest with a spear of strings, ensuring they both vanish together. As the portal closes, Sierra dies. In his last breath, Lubbock sees his comrades, his beloved Najenda, and finally places his hope in Tatsumi. Battered and bound, Tatsumi watches in horror as his comrade disappears, impaled among the endless threads of his final strike. Later, General Budo reports Sierra's death, but Honest shows no care for his own son, as what matters now is Tatsumi, being imprisoned deep underground to be used as bait for Night Raid. When Esdeath hears, she freezes, as she cannot allow anything to happen to him. Soon after, the city announces Tatsumi's public execution, and Najenda and the rest of Night Raid watch in grim silence. That night, Mine is ready to save Tatsumi. Akame, Leone, and Najenda already know it will come to this, as Tatsumi is not only their friend but also their greatest asset, so Najenda agrees to rescue him from execution. In the dungeon, Esdeath visits Tatsumi once more, begging him to choose her so she can free him from all accusations. Still, Tatsumi refuses. With ease, Esdeath cuts through the iron bars and embraces him, promising he doesn't have to betray Night Raid, but he only has to choose her, and she will protect him. But Tatsumi pushes her away, saying that he cannot be with someone responsible for creating the war. There, as much as she loves him, Esdeath realizes she will have to end him. Meanwhile, in Kurome's room, Wave and Run watch over her. Her condition worsens, but Kurome remains resolute that she loves her sister so much that she wants to end Akame herself, so no one else will harm her. At Lubbock's hideout, the others pay their final respects to him and plan the operation. In the Royal Colosseum, King Kute declares Night Raid the cause of the war and makes Tatsumi's execution a warning to all rebels. After the speech, Prime Minister Honest leads the king away, leaving Esdeath and Budo in charge. Esdeath steps into the ring, pressing her blade against Tatsumi's neck and slicing his clothes. Before she can finish him, Mine fires from the Colosseum roof. At the same time, Najenda triggers bombs Lubbock has planted, collapsing the arena and trapping Esdeath underground. Budo retaliates, striking the flying manta where Najenda's group rides. Leone catches Mine as she leaps down, while Akame infiltrates the castle to retrieve Incursio. Esdeath unleashes a storm of ice blades, but Susanoo intercepts them, engaging her in battle. Above, Mine and Budo clash fiercely. Though overpowered by his strength, Mine's resolve grows stronger under pressure, her tegu surging with desperation. Leone intervenes to hold Budo in place, but his lightning overwhelms them both. But even injured, Mine refuses to back down, as her determination to save Tatsumi pushes her to keep firing. Akame carves her way through guards and secures Incursio. At the same time, Najenda awakens Susanoo's god form to counter Esdeath. Delighted, Esdeath fights harder, but Susanoo reflects her own attack back at her. In the skies, Mine pours all her will into a final shot. Her blast tears through Budo's lightning, obliterating him and splitting the heavens themselves. Victorious, she collapses from the cost of her life force. Akame arrives with Incursio just in time, freeing Tatsumi and handing him his imperial arm. He transforms instantly, catching Mine before she strikes the ground, and seeing Tatsumi free, Najenda calls for retreat. But Esdeath does not allow it. She charges, only to be stopped by Susanoo's massive blade. Najenda detonates another bomb, but Esdeath freezes time itself, slips past Susanoo, and shatters him. Yet Najenda refuses to yield. With the last of her strength, she summons Susanoo's god form one final time. Accepting his fate, Susanoo bids farewell without regrets, giving his life so his comrades can live. Tatsumi flees the Colosseum with Najenda, Akame, and Leone, leaving Susanoo behind to face Esdeath until the end. On their way out, Tatsumi clings to hope that Mine will survive, but she asks him to stop. By the river, she confesses her true feelings and gives him her final kiss goodbye before her end. After everything that happens, the last surviving members of Night Raid return to base. Tatsumi asks why they risk themselves to save him, and Najenda replies that stopping the execution is necessary to protect the revolutionary spirit. Besides, in the process they eliminate General Budo, one of their greatest threats. And for those still alive, it is their duty to carry the weight of their fallen comrades' hopes. They cannot let that hope die, or their friends will never rest in peace. Behind closed doors, Najenda mourns Susanoo, not as a weapon, but as her partner. Tatsumi, meanwhile, vows to hold on to Mine's dream of a world free from discrimination. In the city, the citizens cry for revolution. Wave fumes over their limited movement, but Run tells him to save his energy for the real battle. The revolution has begun, and Run admits he too wants change, hence why he joined the Jaegers, to reform the empire from within. He then asks Kurome what she will do with her short remaining life. Kurome answers simply to follow her heart and confront Akame. Outside, Esdeath eagerly cuts down rebels, her blade of ice slicing through anyone who dares challenge her. Knowing Tatsumi is alive, she swears to slaughter every revolutionary if it means reaching him. Inside the castle, a soldier reports their dire situation, that the city is surrounded, and even Esdeath cannot withstand such overwhelming numbers. King Kute falters, but Honest reminds him the empire needs a ruler willing to be cruel. He orders the preparation of the ancient weapon's true power. Kurome's time grows short, so she sends a message only Akame can understand. Seeing a crucified body marked with a cut known only to their old team, Akame realizes it is from her sister. Kurome wants to meet at the abandoned Kadai Forest Industry. Tatsumi tries to stop her, but Akame insists that only she can answer Kurome's call. The sisters meet at the old site, once a gathering place for their unit, and the very place Akame betrayed the Empire. Kurome reminisces about the days when they fought side by side as the Empire's strongest assassins, eliminating rebels to maintain peace. She confesses she loved those days, but when Akame left, despair consumes her. She imagines ending her sister every day, and now she will make that dream real, believing that turning Akame into her puppet will keep them together forever. Their blades clash, a fight laced with both words and wounds. But when a monster suddenly emerges, they instinctively fight together like the old days, defeating it before resuming their duel. Kurome summons her undead army, but Akame cuts them down with ease. Wave appears, desperate to stop the battle, but Tatsumi intervenes, refusing to let anyone interfere. Wave cannot understand why Tatsumi will not stop the sisters, but Tatsumi says some fights have to be resolved personally, and that people carry reasons only they themselves can face. Kurome thanks Wave for coming, wishing things could have been different between them, but chooses to finish her battle with Akame. In their final clash, Kurome falls into her sister's arms. Wave collapses to his knees, feeling powerless, but Akame tells him his presence has been enough. Carrying Kurome's body, Wave asks why they have to fight like this. Akame's answer is simple, saying that to fight means being ready to face the consequences. As Wave leaves, Akame breaks down, collapsing into Tatsumi's arms. He promises her that from now on, they will no longer lose anyone important. And for the first time, Akame cries openly. The very next day, Honest prepares to awaken the Empire's strongest ancient weapon, and the young King Kute willingly offers himself as its vessel. At the outskirts of the city, Wave mourns at Kurome's grave. He thinks about what he will do now. He wanted to be a knight who protects people, but now, he no longer knows who he is protecting. Back at Night Raid's base, their home feels emptier with only 4 of them left. Leone teases Tatsumi, saying they should stick together after all this is over. Nashenda feels relieved that despite everything, her team still has each other, and they have one mission left: end Prime Minister Honest. At dawn, the Revolutionary Army gathers at the city gates. Nashenda leads the troops while the rest slip into the castle through the underground tunnels. Tatsumi, Akame, and Leone are the first to encounter Run. He dismisses his soldiers to avoid setbacks and then unfurls his wings, attacking with his feathers. Run admits he despises the Emperor and the corruption of the government, but he refuses to support the revolution. Once a teacher, he lost his students when they were kidnapped and butchered, ignored by the Empire simply because his town is too small and unprofitable. He wants revenge for them, but in his own way, by changing the government from within. Leone grows furious. To her, Rada has every reason to side with them, but chooses to protect the Empire instead. Run blames the revolution for ruining his chance to reform from the inside. Enraged, Leone smashes a pillar and tells Tatsumi and Akame to move forward while she fights Run alone. Inside the throne room, King Kote sits with Honest and the royal guards. Though the young king once doubts himself, Honest reassures him that cruelty is necessary and that rebellion must be crushed decisively. Now fully under Honest's grip, Kote obeys. When Tatsumi and Akame burst into the chamber, Akame strikes at Honest, but Kote blocks her with his shield. Tatsumi shouts that the Emperor is a tyrant, and the people are suffering, all because Honest manipulates him. Honest counters, urging Kute to activate the Empire's strongest weapon. Like a puppet, Kute summons the Shikotazer, a colossal ancient weapon said to rival the gods. The Shikotazer towers over the capital, tearing the castle apart. Even Leone and Run halt their fight to save civilians, while Nagenda leads the revolutionaries as they brace against the giant. Inside the weapon, Kute, blinded by its power, declares that dishonoring the Emperor is dishonoring the gods. He unleashes blasts that destroy half the capital in an instant, devastation greater than any bomb. Wave watches in horror while Tatsumi rages, but Honest continues whispers poison into Kute's ears, telling him the survivors will rebuild the city, and that his will is absolute. Amid the ruins, Akame fights the king's guards, while Tatsumi challenges Kute directly. He shouts that a true king would never slaughter his own people, but Kute believes the Empire has stood strong for 1,000 years, and will not fall under his reign. Tatsumi presses forward, dodging the Shikotazer's deadly beams. He urges Kute to look down at the chaos, destruction, and death he causes, but Honest keeps him blinded. Kute finally catches Tatsumi midair, slamming him into the ground and preparing to crush him underfoot. At the last moment, Wave snatches him to safety, and this time, he will fight alongside Tatsumi. And for the people, the Shikotazer rains destruction over the city. While Run and Leone scramble to rescue civilians, Tatsumi and Wave seek a way to strike back. In the chaos, Tatsumi discovers a weak spot. Remembering Suzunu's words that all things have a weakness, he asks Wave to distract Kute while he attacks again. Enraged, Kute blasts them both, and Wave collapses from exhaustion. But Tatsumi hovers between life and death, where he sees Bulat, his mentor, telling him to keep fighting, to endure the dirty work of change, because in the end they will vanish, leaving a new world behind. The vision rekindles his spirit, pushing Incursio to its final evolution. Kute unleashes a storm of fire, but Tatsumi, in his final form, soars through it and strikes the Shikotazur's weak point. He pierces through, finishing Kute without mercy, but then the Shikotazur explodes, its massive body collapsing toward the city. Tatsumi catches it with everything he has, straining to hold it back from crushing the people, sacrificing his body in the process. Akame rushes to him, but Tatsumi apologizes for breaking his promise. Exhausted, he collapses into her arms. Akame cries for him once more, while Esdeath, watching from afar, realizes the truth that her beloved Tatsumi is dead. Esdeath knows death means weakness, yet she still refuses to accept Tatsumi's. The pain in her heart drives her to crave more battles, and if no war remains, she will create her own. But Akame will not let her destroy the world's new beginning. At the ruins of the castle, Esdeath circles the broken walls and challenges Akame. From outside, Najenda gives Akame her final order: end Esdeath. The two strongest women of the war clash, and Esdeath's ice blades strike with relentless speed, but Akame's sword deflects each one. Esdeath presses harder, almost freezing Akame, until Akame cuts through part of her armor and forces her back. Akame demands to know why Esdeath seeks war so desperately, and Esdeath simply says that she likes to win, and if Akame wishes to live, she can surrender her blade and serve under her. But Akame refuses, striking again and declaring that everyone deserves to live free from the discrimination. Esdeath refuses to listen. She raises spears of ice from the ground, raining them upon Akame. Akame barely holds them back with her sword, but Esdeath's assault gives her no room. Then Esdeath's heel pierces Akame's abdomen, sending her to the ground. To Esdeath, weakness has no place in this world. Furious, Akame does the unthinkable. She cuts her own hand, unleashing the full curse of her blade. Memories, hatred, and rage of every soul she has slain surge into her body. Black tattoos spread across her skin, her eyes darken, and she becomes the demon of death itself. Esdeath trembles with excitement at the power radiating from Akame. Now Akame moves faster than Esdeath can follow, slicing through her ice as if it were nothing. For the first time, Esdeath is being toyed with. Desperate, she leaps into the sky, forcing the battle into the air. But Akame shoots her down, pinning her with a blade to her chest. Only a wall of ice saves Esdeath, though not without leaving wounds. The curse begins to spread through Esdeath's body. Smiling, she cuts her own arm to stop it, as losing a limb means nothing, while this fight is everything. They clash again, unrelenting. For a moment, they break apart. Akame feels the curse weakening, and she knows that she has to finish it now. She unleashes a storm of strikes, driving Esdeath to use her final technique, frozen time. Believing she has won, Esdeath watches Akame frozen in stillness. But Akame has embraced her demon's power, and Esdeath fails to see that Akame has tricked her. When time resumes, Akame's blade tears across Esdeath's chest. Shocked, Esdeath asks how, and Akame answers that Esdeath's own shadow, her hunger for power, turned against her. Defeated, Esdeath wonders how Akame can be so strong. Akame replies it is the hope of her fallen comrades that carries her, and Esdeath never understands that sentiment, but she accepts her death. In her final moments, she cradles Tatsumi's body, shielding him from Akame, and whispers a wish that someday, in another world, they might be together. Then she encases them both in ice and shatters into thousands of pieces. Inside the castle, Anna still lives, fleeing through the rubble until Leone blocks his path. Desperate, he wields an ancient weapon, destroying Leone's Tegu. Armed only with a gun, he shoots her again and again in the stomach, but Leone refuses to fall. Drawing on the strength of her harsh upbringing, she pummels Honest into the ground, smashing his face until it is mashed potato, and the war ends. On a rooftop, Akame stands with Leone, but then Leone smiles faintly and says her farewell, promising to see their comrades again. Akame understands what she means and lets her go. Later that night, while the city celebrates, Leone looks over the laughter of her friends one last time. But like a cat slipping away, she dies quietly, smiling. Days later, the city begins to heal. Najenda oversees the new order, escorting the young emperor to his final place. Before his end, Kute asks her to build a world without bloodshed, and she promises him she will. Wave and Run bid farewell to Kurome, vowing to help rebuild the empire the right way under Najenda's lead. In Tatsumi's hometown, Najenda delivers a chest of gold in his name so the people can rebuild their lives. The villagers, unaware of the truth, still wish for their beloved Tatsumi's return. At last, Akame meets Najenda one final time. Najenda, her life worn down by war, is proud to spend what remains rebuilding the new world, and for their fallen comrades. Akame believes in her, and with her mission complete, she is finally free. The night raid was once condemned as the cause of chaos and bloodshed. In the new world, their name vanishes from history. Yet those who know the truth remember that in every life there are two sides, and the night raid chooses the side of the people, delivering justice from the shadows. Comment down below. Night Raid. If you watch till the end, subscribe so you don't miss the next video.